What's going on, Internet? My name is Court. This is Chris, and welcome to the first episode of our new podcast, Mass Media Hysteria. We do have a third correspondent, a guy named Andris, and I will link you to his YouTube channel in the description. He's not here today. He had to work. So our first episode is just the two of us, but we're going to have a lot of fun. We are going to talk about Wandavision. We're going to review the latest episode of Wandavision, which will be spoilers. We are also going to review the latest Amazon movie, I Care a Lot, with Rosamund Pike. That will be spoiler free. We are going to talk about some new trailers that have come out, Justice League, Mortal Kombat, Cruella. And we have some news that Edgar Wright, the director of is it the Coronado trilogy, I think it's called?
Yeah, I think it's the Cornetto trilogy.
Okay. Yeah. So World's End, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. Of course, he did Baby Driver. He did
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah. He is developing a new adaptation of Stephen King's The Running Man, which was, of course, originally published by his pseudonym Richard Bachman. But we're going to talk about that because it's a book that I love. I got my Stephen King shirt on. We're ready to go. So welcome. I hope you guys enjoy this. Chris, do you want to say hello? What do you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here. This is episode 1, or we're trying to make it episode 1. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. It's a surprisingly packed week for movie news and reviews. So I'm excited to talk movies, man.
Right on. And I should say, this is the inaugural episode. We don't have all of our graphics made and all that, but we just wanted to put this out because we've been excited about working on this. And so we'll figure it out as we go. This one will be a little bit bare bones, but work with us. It'll be fun.
At the stubborn behest of me, where we were like, oh, this should be a practice run. And I'm like, no, put this out. We need content. So if it ends horribly, you can blame me. It's all on Chris.
Well, and I remember when I started my channel back in the day, well, not back in the day, but a while back, a good friend of mine said to me, I was saying, I'm going to do a bunch of practice runs. And my buddy said, you just got to put it out there and then it'll get better. If you keep saying you're going to practice, it's never going to get done. So we're just putting this out and we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely.
But so our first topic today is we are going to talk about the latest episode of Wandavision. It was episode 7. I can't believe we only have 2 episodes left to go.
I know.
It feels like there's so much story to be told with only a couple more episodes, which is crazy.
Absolutely.
But this episode was called Breaking the Fourth Wall. Mm-hmm. And again, we are going to spoil it. So if you don't want to know anything,
if for some reason you haven't watched WandaVision, the show everyone's talking about right now, don't know what to tell you. Go watch it. They're very short episodes, which could be an issue. Just watch it, then come back and listen.
Indeed. So this episode, I will say off the bat, for me, it's not. I quite liked it. I enjoyed it very much. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was as strong as maybe the last 3, like 4 through 6, I think were fantastic.
Yeah.
This one had some really good stuff. It had some kind of slower moments for me. What were your overall opinions on the episode?
I got to agree that it's still a good episode and I'm still very much into the show, but episode 7 was probably the first episode that I was kind of so on. For a number of different reasons. I can get into them in a second. I'll let you kind of finish your thoughts on it. But essentially, this is the one that it felt both tonally was kind of off, the pacing was sort of off, and it was the first one that felt like you could qualify it or classify it in that dirty word of filler. I know everyone was talking about The Mandalorian being filler. I disagreed with that. It felt very much like a throwback to Western serials where each episode is kind of contained. WandaVision, however, so far up until this point has been like very episodic, not serial, but very much one episode leads into the other. Mm-hmm. And all of it had this kind of forward momentum. This is the first episode where I felt a little bit like, all right, we're just kind of killing time before the finale, literally waiting at a red light.
Right.
So there are good things about it, which I can get into, but there's also just nothing that ruined my enjoyment overall, but just kind of made this episode kind of like, all right, let's just get to the end.
Well, and so that's kind of, I mean, parts of it did kind of feel like filler. Of course, we got some really big reveals.
Mhm.
Obviously, the big thing is Agnes is what everybody kind of thought, but is this
Yeah.
character Agatha Harkness, and I
Mhm.
loved that reveal, and I think we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
one of my big issues with this episode was the Darcy Vision subplot. Like you said, stuck in a red light. I found that amusing, like the red light, and then the guys working on it, and then the kids going. Like I got some laughs,
Mhm.
and that one reveal where, of course, this episode was very Modern Family, so it had the talking head sort of confessional interviews.
Yeah.
That one shot, that reveal of like Vision sitting on the director's chair outside of the van,
Mhm.
and he like takes off his lapel mic and bonks his head on the boom mic. That was funny. I thought he and Elizabeth Olsen were fabulous at doing these confessionals. Like they were very,
Yeah.
it was very natural. It was very funny. I really, really liked that.
Mhm.
But the whole subplot with Darcy, I mean, we, there was a lot of exposition there. Like Vision sort of now knows his own story. He knows what happened, and
Mhm.
that was important. But every time that subplot was on screen, I felt like we were kind of killing time.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's yeah, this episode, more so than other episodes, essentially had like an ABC plot. You had the A plot, which is Wanda kind of going through like throes of depression and having a me day. Then you have Monica Rambeau and the Sword team she's trying to get back into the Hex.
Mhm.
And then you have Vision and Darcy. And the C plot really it you could feel it being sort of unnecessary. It was still entertaining to the extent that there was some good lines, some good laughs between Darcy and Vision. Like you said, the confessionals, especially between Vision, yeah, just him like looking straight to the camera, saying like, "I'm not amused."
Yeah,
It's funny, but it's sort of this unfortunate kind of pitfall for screenwriters where it's difficult where you the screenwriter has to they're trying to convey exposition that the audience already knows but a character doesn't know.
right.
And in a situation like that, it's almost like a catch 22 where we know that Vision started out as Jarvis and then he was created in Age of Ultron. We know his backstory. He has amnesia, or he doesn't remember it, so he doesn't know. So when you're kind of just sitting there listening to information that you already know, it's hard not to be. I mean, it's hard to be invested in that when you're like, all right, we get it. It's important for Vision to know that. I understand, and it will help move his plot along. But yeah, it was just a little bit of spinning wheels, just to, like I said, just kind of setting the stage for the next couple episodes.
Right.
Um, Also, it was sort of like I understand, it was a bit comedic, but they were sitting at this red light, and multiple obstructions were coming and stopping them from going to the Wanda's house until Vision just remembered, oh wait, I can fly. I'm like,
Right.
why did you forget that? We could have cut through all of this. But that's the main kind of issue I had with it. A lot of the rest was great. I mean, like I said, the AB plots were really interesting. We discovered that Monica Rambeau has powers now. They kind of hinted at it earlier,
Mhm.
where Darcy was saying that her entire molecular structure or whatever has been altered from going into the Hex multiple times. Um, like you said in your review, that we know for a fact that Monica has superpowers now because she has a superhero landing at one point. Um, yeah, what did you think about that? The whole thing with Monica kind of getting her powers after going through the Hex.
I thought it was cool. I really enjoyed the visuals of her like going through the barrier. It
Mhm.
had almost like a 2001 kind of flavor to
Oh
me.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, I thought that was really cool. And then the way she sort of visualizes the world now, that reminded. Did you ever see Annihilation?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Like the shimmer, whatever
the
it was
shimmer,
called.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It definitely had that kind of feel to it, almost
Mhm.
like a weird like oil painting or something. I really
Yeah.
liked that. Um, I will say, the whole setup about her engineer friend in the last couple episodes, I've got a guy who can do this thing, and it felt like they were setting up some kind of reveal, and I think a lot of people believe that they were. Um, some people were saying it's going to be Reed Richards, or it's going to
Yeah.
be Hank McCoy or Hank Pym or whatever.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
all of which would have been very cool to me. There was no kind of reveal.
Mhm.
It was just this woman, Captain, whatever her name was, Grunder or something like that.
Yes. Mhm.
And my thought process is, first off, it felt like they were setting it up for a reveal. Maybe
Yeah.
they weren't. Maybe that was just all of us fanboys getting ourselves too psyched up. I kind of feel though that I think there's a reveal still coming. I do, because if Monica had said, "This is my friend, the engineer, so and so," okay, that would put it to bed. But she just says, "This is so and so, and they've got this vehicle," and so
Yeah.
I'm hoping we'll still get something. I don't necessarily think it's going to be someone as big as Reed Richards, but that would be very cool. I'd be into
One
that.
could hope. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that for a couple reasons. One is I trust the people at Marvel. They've earned my trust at this point when it comes to plotting,
Mhm.
and I think that they know how to kind of tease an audience. And I don't think that people were reading into the fact that multiple times we were like, I know someone like an engineer. It wasn't just once. It wasn't just like a quick sentence. It was multiple times in previous episodes,
Mhm.
her kind of priming like, I'm going to meet someone. I'm going to meet someone. I agree that I expected like her to meet that person in this episode. So I still think we're going to get a reveal soon, either in the next episode or in the final episode. Partially also because the actress playing Monica Rambeau, Teyonah Parris,
Yeah.
she in an interview stated that she's very excited for the audience to see who, or specifically she it wasn't just like a surprise is coming. She said specifically, can't wait for you guys to see who this person is, this
Right.
engineer.
Right.
So a reveal is coming, and there's theories abound. Personally, I think it's between kind of three options. They're going to sound pedantic, but it's Reed Richards, and it's played by someone famous like John Krasinski. It doesn't have to be specifically him, but I know that's an internet favorite.
Mhm.
It's Reed Richards, but it's not played by somebody famous. I still think that would be a big reveal, even because I think that, let's say, the way that I gauge popular characters in pop culture or how famous they are is if my grandma knows who they are. So
Right.
my grandma may not recognize the name Reed Richards, but if I told her the Fantastic Four, she knows about the Fantastic Four. So even if it's kind of a no-name actor, just having that character Reed Richards, I think would be a big reveal.
Sure.
Or the final thing is that if it's not Reed Richards, it's still going to be a big name actor. The reason why I think that is because, like I said, Teyonah Parris and other people have just been hyping up that like you're not going to believe who this is. And if it's not a popular fictional character, if it could, because like other people have been talking, it's like, oh well, in the comics there's this other guy, Blue Beetle. I don't know if that's DC or whatever, but there's these theories of these other characters, but the problem is nobody knows who the hell that is. Like
Right.
you know what I mean? Like I've read comics. I'm not a big comic reader anymore, so I don't know all like the ins and outs. But I think it would be anticlimactic if you get a no-name actor playing a D tier character that nobody
Right.
knows.
Right.
You can have a D tier character, but if it's got to be like an actor that everybody knows, that everybody can recognize immediately. What do
Right.
you think, kind of theory wise?
I'm with you. I do think there will be a reveal. I do think it'll be either a character that is recognizable to the general populace, or an actor that will be recognizable to the general populace.
Yeah.
Like you said, they did kind of make a point to talk about this character, and I think it would be very anticlimactic if it was a D tier character or
Yeah.
somebody nobody knows.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, I'm looking forward to it. Again, we don't know when it's coming, next episode or the final episode, but I will say one of my favorite moments, the moment that made me absolutely laugh my head off, was early in the episode when Agnes comes over and she's going to take the kids so Wanda can have some me time.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Come on, kids, I don't bite." And then smash cut to the confessional where she goes, "I actually bit a kid one time."
Yeah.
That, like, the way she delivered that line and just the line itself just killed me. But
Yeah.
that was also kind of foreshadowing because, as I mentioned, we learn at the end of the episode that she is the witch, Agatha Harkness, and the twins have disappeared. So this is my question to you. Did she kill the twins? Did she eat the twins? Do you think they are going to come back, or are they just gone?
Man, I th- I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if Marvel is wanting to go dark enough that she literally ate these children.
Right.
There's something weird about them where they don't seem to be a projection, though. They're growing fast, but they seem to have their own powers and they seem to have their own consciousness. It's possible that that could be reversed by the end of the series, but the fact that like they're not just like these projections makes me think that they're going to be important. So I think that she's doing something with them. I don't think she ate him yet. I could be totally wrong, but my gut is that she didn't eat him. She didn't get rid of him. She didn't kill him. They're somewhere. She's doing something with him. Because here's the thing. Speaking of the Agatha Harkness thing, I think that it was pretty heavily foreshadowed, and it wasn't a big surprise that the character Agnes was kind of Agatha's behind it all. That song, which was fantastic, by the way.
That was great.
I don't think that was a big surprise. However, I still think what's good about it is that we don't know what her plan is. So that's what's intriguing to me. Because there was a bit of like when she was going through like, it was me and she was petting the bunny. At first I was kind of like, yeah, we know that. But I was still kept intrigued because it's like you said, what did you do with the kids? Are they still alive? What's happening? And what is your plan? And those are two big mysteries that we don't know that could, that is still propelling me forward as like, I need to know what happens.
Right.
I need to see next episode now.
And I will also say too, like, as you said, the Agatha All Along song, which I'm pretty sure was like a reference to the Munsters. It kind of sounded like that. And the font and all that. But that whole bit was great. But one thing I loved about it is last episode when Vision finds Agnes in the car by the barrier and she's all spaced out and he wakes her up and she's like terrified. That was a moment last week where I kind of went, okay, so maybe she's not a villain. And then in the Agatha All Along thing, we see that scene again, but the camera's at a different angle, kind of peek behind the curtain, and it completely recontextualizes the scene because she's having the conversation and Vision looks away and she like checks her makeup and the thing and almost gives kind of like a wink to the camera. I love that. I love that. Like she was just playing him the whole time.
Oh, for sure. I love Catherine Hahn. I think that she's fantastic. And she was really in a good way hamming it up kind of towards the end, like just because it was more than just like a wink. Like she was making so much eye contact with the camera throughout. And then the last line, I mean, the cutaway that you said of her saying like, I bit a kid once was hilarious, but it was the last line that got me, just her delivery where she's like, I killed Sparky too. And then just cackles. Like she's chewing the scenery and I'm for it. I think, Catherine Hahn's always been like a great kind of comedic supporting actress for years. So I'm glad that she's in such a huge show now and seemingly like the next few episodes, she's going to get a lot more to kind of chew on as well.
Right. Yeah. I think I kind of first became aware of her in Step Brothers and she's like hilarious in that movie.
She's great.
And I've been a fan ever since. And I think she's really killing it on this show.
Totally.
And I cannot wait for next week. Again, I don't know. There are internet rumors saying the next 2 episodes are going to be quite a bit longer. I'll believe it when I see it.
I do want to quickly touch on that where it's a bit of misinformation that's being spread around because I see a lot of people touting Kevin Feige confirms, and this was even before episode 7 came out, but it said Kevin Feige confirms last 3 episodes will be 1 hour long. That's like very much a half truth or even a quarter truth, essentially because there was an interview ages ago where Kevin Feige said that WandaVision will be about 6 hours long, right? So people were doing the math of like, well, there's 3 episodes left. There's been this much runtime. So clearly there must be hour-long episodes. That's not a confirmation, people. I know I am one of you. I'm one of the people that wants the episodes to be longer. I'm just eating this up, loving it. But I think that it was just one of him saying it's 6 hours long. I think it's just, I don't know. I think that, that was maybe more of an approximation. I hope that we get longer episodes, but at this point, considering that The Mandalorian also never had an episode that went over like an hour, I wouldn't be surprised if the next episodes remain between 30 to 40 minutes, which would be, frustrating, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, be careful on the internet with the word confirmed is all I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah, always find the source. Don't just see like a headline and be like, well, I'll take that at face value. Always see where it comes from. That saves you a lot of misinformation being spread.
Yeah. So before we move on, let me ask you one more question. Do you think that WandaVision is going to have a season 2, or do you think this is a one and done?
I think as far as shows go, it's a one and done. However, I think that a lot of the story elements that it's creating will be felt in the MCU for years to come. So as far as a follow-up show, I say no. I think they're done. However, I think direct storylines will lead into Doctor Strange in the multiverse of
Madness, yeah.
which we mentioned last time is just a killer freaking name.
It's so good.
And so yeah, I think that it's like, I think that for people that are clamoring like myself, that are like, I want to see where this story goes, what happens with Wanda, what happens with Monica, what happens with Jimmy Woo, and what happens with Darcy. We will see that. We will see the continuation of it, even if it's in different forms. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. What do you think?
I'm kind of the same mind. It feels like this show is so high concept that I kind of feel like it makes more sense to have it a one and done. Yeah. I feel like doing another season where the conceit is still like the sitcom angle.
Yeah.
Particularly now that they're up into the 2010s with Modern Family and The Office. And I don't really know where you go with that, but the story goes, like, this particular story will have a tie into Doctor Strange 2, Spider-Man 3, and Captain Marvel 2. So
yeah.
And one more thing I just want to point out. I love Randall Park as Jimmy Woo. He's so good. He's so funny. But this particular episode too, I liked. He wasn't being like the comedic character in this episode. Like, there was that moment where when Monica's trying to go through the barrier and he's like yelling for her, and it was genuine concern. It was serious acting, and I really liked him in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I love him. And this talk about potentially, or there's interest in there being sort of like a Jimmy Woo show, or essentially, someone from like these kind of groups of characters doing kind of like an X-Files type thing. Right. Obviously not confirmed by any means, but I would love that. I think that, I love Randall Park. I thought it was an interesting choice to have him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I'm glad that they did, knowing that it's like, okay, let's use him more, because he's such a terrific talent, not just as a comedic actor, but I think that he really has some acting chops there as well, some dramatic acting chops. And I'd like to see much more of his character going forward. I hope that he gets a little bit more to do, more time to shine than just being like a supporting character in one show.
I would agree.
Cool.
All right, so let's move on to our second topic of the day, which is the brand new Amazon film, I Care a Lot.
Netflix. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was a Netflix original.
Oh, is it? Okay. In Canada, it was Amazon.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I'm sorry. This is my egotistical American worldview. It's like, it's so yeah, I guess I didn't know that. So I guess Amazon in Canada, Netflix here. So I wonder. Whatever. I'll look up elsewhere, because I wonder where else people can view it in other regions now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange, because usually Netflix US and Canada are pretty much on the same page.
Yeah,
but
that's what I thought. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh no, it's all good. Okay. You didn't know. So yeah, this film is written and directed by a guy named Jay Blakeson, who has done a couple movies, none of which I've seen, but he did I believe it was called The Fifth Wave a couple years ago. I did not see that. I heard it was not good.
It was the death rattle of the YA novel craze.
Right.
When Twilight came out, there's a huge boom. Everybody probably remembers there was YA novel adaptation after adaptation. And that one just came out in 2016, where people were very much done with it. And it kind of came and went with a whimper. Right. Didn't see it either. So went into this movie not knowing much about this Jay Blakeson person. That's his name, right? Jay Blakeson?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I had no expectations about his abilities or anything. And it sounds like you didn't either.
I didn't.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you your sort of overall thoughts in a second, but let me just quickly, for anyone watching, the basic premise of this film: it
Mhm.
stars Rosamund Pike, who plays essentially she is a legal guardian for elderly people who are deemed to be uh, not safe to live on their own. So she, will put them into retirement homes and she'll manage their finances and all that. But the twist is she's a grifter. She is completely taking advantage of these people, along with her girlfriend and partner. And early in the film, we're introduced, or she's introduced to the character Jennifer, played by the amazing Diane Wiest, whom I love. I've loved ever
Mhm.
since The Lost Boys. She's incredible. Um, and they find out that she has no family. She's very wealthy. She owns her home outright. And for Rosamund Pike's character, this is, they call her like a cherry. This is like the perfect mark. And so she gets her put into this home and starts, siphoning money. And then we find out that she does actually have family. She's the mother of a Russian mob boss played by the awesome Peter Dinklage,
Mhm.
and things go poorly from there. So that's your basic premise. Chris, what did you think of the movie overall?
Oh, before I get to that, I just want to say it's the mob boss is played by Peter Dinklage's beard, and Peter
Yes,
Dinklage himself also makes an appearance. But that
that's right.
beard is the first thing you see.
Oh, that puts the Tyrion beard to
Oh my
shame.
gosh. I hope it looked pretty good, but at the same time it was so large. I'm like, that has to be fake, right?
Right.
That's got anyway. So I'm gonna try my best to avoid spoilers, partially because I do recommend people go see this movie. Um I quite enjoyed this. I think that this was a very slick, stylish, well-made thriller with terrific acting across the board. Rosamund Pike, in particular, she's fantastic in everything, but she absolutely crushed it in this
Yeah.
as this stone cold, you know,
Ruthless.
absolutely. Yeah, this businesswoman who is as greedy as they come. Like, puts, right up there with Gordon Gekko as greed is good. That's all that she cares about. There's even a point later on where potentially family members of hers are put in danger, a mother, and she's just kind of like, who cares? This woman is ruthless, like you said. It's also, a kind of a searing, I don't want to say satire, but it is a takedown on capitalism. It's very much at the forefront, kind of a critique on the flawed kind of twisting of the American dream, where it's essentially just you just focus on yourself. It's just like this, I forget the term for it, but essentially get rich by any means possible. If you're rich, even if you stepped on a million people across the way, like along the way to get there, that's all that matters. And I felt that message was delivered with the subtlety of like a sledgehammer, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it still wasn't as blatant in the dialogue as I've seen in other movies,
Right.
where they talk about capitalism and how, and it also brings up a really important issue, which is an issue that I've known about for a while, is even if it's not to this extent, there is a massive issue, at least within the United States, of um, corrupt people behind elderly care facilities. Very similar situations where people are put in there, elderly people, they're being cut off from their family, money is being siphoned from them. Essentially, kind of our most vulnerable people are um, being taken advantage of, and that's a very real issue. And I think that the movie succeeds in making you sympathize, and also succeeds in kind of being like, hey, this is effed up, right? Like, you should be rightfully infuriated by the treatment of these people. So overall, without going to, like, before I go into other specifics or pass it back to you, I think this is a stylishly made thriller. I have some problems with it, which I'll get into. It's not perfect, but I think that it's a good time from start to finish. It definitely keeps you hooked, and you're interested and you're engaged in what's going on from beginning to end.
Well,
I'd
and
say that.
that's something I found, that there is not a single likable character in this film. Like
Mhm.
everybody is despicable. There's
Mhm.
no one you root for. There's no one you whose back you can get. And yet somehow, like, I found myself completely sucked in,
Mhm.
uh, totally just locked into this story. I also found, and I don't know if you noticed this, but I found that this movie, it felt almost like a spiritual sequel to Uncut Gems. Did you see Uncut Gems?
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
This felt kind of similar because, again, Uncut Gems, everybody is a miserable piece of crap. Uh, it also had that very sort of electronic synthy score, which is,
Uh-huh.
there's that, but it was also just, this movie was a stressful experience. Like, I was on edge the whole time.
Mhm. Interesting. I didn't make that connection. This movie did stress me out. I guess it was just different levels of kind of like of anxiety. To touch on your point, I think one of the better things and one of the worst things about it was just how unlikable every character was. I think the only one that I kind of liked was Diane Weist's character of Jennifer. And I mean, she's the mother of a mob boss, but she technically didn't do anything wrong. I don't know. She was sympathetic in my mind, but everyone, but especially Rosamund Pike's character of what was her name? Marla Grayson.
Marla, right?
Um, hated her.
Yeah,
Absolutely hated her. Just a little peek behind the curtains. Whenever I watch movies, I'm locked in. I never really text or anything. But I did because I watched this kind of at the request of you. I was interested in seeing it, but you saying like, "Hey, let's talk about it on the show." I'm like, "All right, I'll watch it sooner rather than later." So I actually broke protocol and I texted you halfway through just to say I effing hate Rosamund Pike's character
yep,
because we've seen, there's plenty of movies where the lead character is dislikable. The lead character is a criminal, they're a bad person. But rarely have I been so angered by a person. And I think it's
right.
partially not just because she's a bad person, but she's smug. She
Yeah,
is smug. And in so many scenes, she's just like, just she thinks she's untouchable and she thinks that like nothing gets under her skin and she's always just kind of chewing people out and she's doing something horrible, like truly horrible. It's not just that she's stealing, but she's imprisoning elderly people,
mm,
separating them from their family and just stealing all of their life savings, and it's like she's a despicable person. And part of the reason why that was an issue for me is that um towards the end, I'd say in the third act, that's when it became a little tiresome for me, where I was still intrigued by the story, but there's something that happens where I was kind of feeling like, okay, this seems like this is the point in the movie where people are planning, they're plotting, and this masterful plan comes together, and it's usually the point in a film where the lead character kind of gets the one uppance on the villain. Except here, everyone's the villain and everyone
right.
sucks. And so there was a lot of like, I've used this term before, but it felt a bit like spinning its wheels where I was watching it and I was just thinking like, I don't really care. I don't want to see this person succeed. So when we're seeing kind of like her go through with this master plan of getting kind of revenge or whatever she's trying to do, I was kind of like, man, this better not go where I'm thinking it's going. Because I was and without spoiling anything, like I said, like the premise is so upsetting of what they're doing to these elderly people that I was worried the film was going to get very nihilistic
Right.
with its ending. And it had an interesting ending, which, like I said, we won't spoil here. That was different than I think what you would expect, but not like a twist ending, and it's not a shock ending. But yeah, there was something where other movies that have dislikable characters are able to keep me invested. Like one of my favorite films of all time is There Will Be Blood. And the main character there, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, is a son of a bitch, and he's ruthless as well, a ruthless capitalist. But there was never a point where he was this smug, like I'm going to like taunt people, and I'm gonna
Right.
there was still like a level where you're like, I want to see this person, just how what happens with this guy. When it comes to the character of Marla and everybody, like her girlfriend played by Aisa Gonzalez, I think is her name.
I
um
I don't know if it's Aiza or Isa. I'm not sure, but
Isa,
yeah,
yeah, I forget how to pronounce it. didn't like them. Peter Dinklage, he's great, but he's also a mob boss, and it's kind of left ambiguous. Like, is he running drugs or is he sex trafficking? I don't know
Right.
if that was like, that was a little ambiguous to me. It's like, running drugs is one thing. If you're sex trafficking, that's also like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Um,
He was
so
he was scary in the movie though.
oh, he's
I
great.
really
Yeah.
liked him in it. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah, I was just gonna say that for me, it was kind of wearing on my patience a bit towards the end. And I think it was simultaneously intentional, because I think that the message of the film, or one of the many themes, is essentially like, this is how awful people can be and they get away with this. And I understand that. So it didn't like go over my head, but I was kind of like, all right, let's this I don't need to. I don't know. It was seeming too nihilistic for me, to the point where like I wasn't as invested in the characters as
Right.
I'd like to have been.
Well, and I did find like the third act is where the movie kind of started losing me a little bit. I
Uh,
really liked the very ending and even the climax, but there
mhm.
are a couple things that Marla does that just didn't feel earned to me. Like she kind of turns into a supervillain at one point, and
Yeah.
it just that was a little bit over the top. Um, but that said, again, like I don't have enough good words to say about Rosamund Pike in this film.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I loved her in Gone Girl. I like her better in this movie. She's just jeering and just chewing the scenery, and you can tell she's having a great time.
Uh,
Um, but I said in my review, like there were moments where I felt like she was like a panther stalking her prey, just the way
mhm.
she sort of forces people to her will through conversation. And
Mhm.
really one of the best scenes in the film was that scene where Chris Messina, the lawyer, comes into her office and they
Oh
just
yeah.
kind of have that head to head and they're
Mhm.
just sort of battling with each other. That was amazing.
Mhm.
She's got a couple scenes with Diane Wiest that were really wonderful when
Yeah.
I'm not giving anything away here, but the one scene where she's talking to Diane Wiest's character when she's drugged because she's like on sedatives. Diane
Uh,
Wiest was crushing it in that scene.
oh, dude. Absolutely.
Yeah.
She was threatening in that scene as well, just being
Mhm.
drugged and essentially like, oh, you're screwed, which is great. Like I said, there were scenes like you said, with the lawyer character comes in to talk with Marla, where I feel like in any other movie you would be like rooting for the protagonist, and the lawyer and the mobsters would be viewed as the antagonists, and you're like, oh, this smarmy guy. It was the exact opposite. Like
Right.
I every time I was like, I want this woman taken down. She's awful. It's funny that you mentioned Gone Girl, because I even said to my wife afterwards, so I'm like, you know what, I think her character in Gone Girl was more likable
Yeah.
than this one. And she was a murderer in Gone Girl.
Mhm.
But here's the thing: you're absolutely right. The performance by Rosamund Pike is cannot be praised enough. She's terrific. It's a wonderfully realized character as well.
Mhm.
From everything, from the costume designs. I think she's like this very chic, like I said, cold businesswoman that's stylish, and she does what Soul Cycle and stuff. Just like the way that this character was realized, it felt very three-dimensional. Her very angular hairstyle,
Yeah, yeah.
it all created this just this disgusting but very memorable, unforgettable kind of character. I think this just came out, but I think that this will be a particular highlight role for Rosamund Pike going
I,
going
I would
forward.
I would agree. So
Yeah.
I guess I think I know the answer to this, but would you recommend this movie to people?
Yes, I would recommend this movie to people. I think definitely check it out. Go in knowing though that it is upsetting. That, like I said, you have to be prepared to not like anybody. And just kind of go for it. Kind of be like an objective observer. Just kind of sit back and like, all right, I'm not going to be rooting for anybody, but I got to see how this plays out. I know that you don't have a proprietary. I can't even say that word, but you don't have a rating system.
I don't.
Um, out of five for me, I don't know. This take this as you will, guys. I'm not the reviewer, but out of five for me, I'd give it about a 3.5, where it's quite good. Like I said, the direction also, I want to say, from someone who made The Fifth Wave, which, like I said, came and went with nobody giving a fart. And to this, I think that his direction by Jay Blakeson was quite good. The editing was very slick. It
Yeah.
was well made. I'd give it 3.5, meaning to me that's a quality film, has some flaws. It's not perfect, but it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like maybe like a 3.8. I really did enjoy
Mhm,
it, which is weird because again, there's no one you can like and whatever,
mhm.
but it was I had fun with it. I was entertained by it.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. This is just a personal thing, little not flare, but little thing that I like that will probably come up in future reviews. I'm always excited to see a movie shot on film. I caught it right away where you could see the film grain. I'm a film. I prefer a movie shot on film over digital any day, and that's becoming a rarity now. So whenever the movie's actually shot on film, gets a little extra point for me. I know that's subjective and it doesn't actually change the quality of a movie, but I just like that aesthetic, so I appreciated that.
Right on.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on. We're going to talk about some movie trailers.
Oh yeah.
So we've got a few trailers that have come out in the last couple of days. What do you want to start Mortal Kombat?
Let's do Mortal Kombat, man.
All right. So I will say straight up, the original Mortal Kombat movie, which came out in the mid '90s, uh, I like that movie. It's not a good movie. In fact, it's a terrible movie.
Mhm,
Um, but it's really entertaining. I like the video game. Whatever. I have not been particularly psyched for this new version.
mhm.
I saw the trailer. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. What were your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The original movie, not the sequel, but the one from I think '95. I could be wrong.
Sounds about right.
It's fun. I mean, it's a good campy '90s nostalgic fun. I watched it a few years back. It's not well made. It's not a good movie, but it's entertaining. And but here's the thing. I've also been a fan of the video games. I haven't kept up with all of them, but since from it being an arcade game to playing on a PlayStation, I grew up with it. It wasn't a favorite franchise of mine, but I've played enough of the games. I've never understood the appeal of turning it into a movie. The games do have a crazy amount of backstory and lore and stuff, but it all feels very perfunctory just to kind of like, it's a game about you punching people. Like
Right.
the game works as a game. I never felt the need to see it as a film. And watching this trailer kind of just kept me right there. It didn't really prove to me why this needs to be a movie. And if people are excited for it, that's cool, but it just looks okay. It looks fine. It looks like it's way more serious than obviously the original '90s
Right.
film, which could be an issue. Have a little fun with this. This is Mortal Kombat with a K. It's goofy. It should be goofy over the top, not like silly, but just I don't know. Yeah, I thought this out of the trailers that we've got this week, this was the one that excited me the least.
Right.
It just kind of seemed generic. It just kind of seemed like generic action film with a hint or two of some interesting things. Literally the only thing that I could comment of like standing out to me was the character of Sub-Zero, who freezes stuff, hence his name.
Mhm.
He slashed at, I believe, Scorpion. There was a pool of blood that came into the air. He froze it to use it as a dagger and stabbed him. I'm
That's
like,
my favorite part.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. And you know what? If the movie does more stuff like that, where that's creative, that's something I really haven't seen before. Do more creative stuff with their powers, and I'd be interested. I'd be interested in checking it out. But the rest of the trailer just seemed very generic to me.
Yeah, I found that like we don't get a lot of story. I don't know how deep this movie's going to go on story anyway, but
Yeah.
we don't get a lot of that. One thing that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I get it, it's just a trailer, but there's that moment where it's like, I'm Sonya, I'm Jax, I'm this guy, I'm that guy, and it was like all in a row, and I was like, all right, that's
Yeah.
a little cheesy. Again, it's a trailer, but
Yeah.
I thought the visual effects didn't look great. I thought Goro didn't look amazing. He looked better than the old movie, but
It
um, I did
looked cheap.
appreciate. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, look, it looked cheap.
Yeah,
The movie looks cheap. Yeah.
yeah. I did appreciate at the very end of the trailer. We have that thing in trailers now where it's this sort of quiet, sad version of a song that you hear in a trailer, and they do the sort of Mortal Kombat music from the old movie, but it's
Yeah.
it's like a piano. It's like dun 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 dun. I kind of appreciated that. That was kind of
Oh
funny.
yeah.
Um,
That's yeah. I was hoping for. I mean, get my blood pumping. I want that original '90s rock and song. That because that song rocks. I like
yeah,
it gets you pumped. And I feel like a little more energy like that could have helped sell the trailer for me. I can see where you're coming from. Like playing it what in D minor or whatever, the melancholic version of that iconic theme. I could have used the more of the bombast though, because like I said, the rest of it was just kind of kept me flat. Like it wasn't really excited throughout.
good. Just a quick question. Do you know on YouTube, do you know the Oral Knots?
Yes, yeah,
So they did a parody of The Dark Knight Rises, and there's the
dude.
go ahead.
I was honestly going to send that to you before we started because I've loved that video so much. But continue for people who don't know.
There's a well, there's the moment in The Dark Knight Rises when Batman and Selina get into the bat and they go flying off. And so these guys make sort of parodies. So they take video clips and then they add their own voices and music and whatever. And as Batman's flying away in the bat, he's cranking the Mortal Kombat theme. You just hear Bane go like, "Oh," and it's hilarious. Definitely check that out.
Yeah, check it out. That's a favorite of mine. That's an old video by now, but just something as so simple as just Batman and Catwoman sitting still, just like with blank faces on, and you just hear that rockin' theme.
Yeah.
It's a riot. So
Also,
um,
the Bane rap is great too, but
oh yeah, Arl is it Oral Knots? Oral Knots?
Oral Knots, yeah, I think.
Oral Knots. Yeah, they're great. They have a lot of stuff. Check out it's a weird plug for Oral Knots. I always like their what's it called? The John Williams. What is it? The Star Wars Throne Room without John Williams. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. No.
Anyway, they're good. They're good. It's check out their quality edits. But as far as like the trailer for Mortal Kombat, yeah, I'll check. I don't know. I don't even know if I will check it. I mean, actually, I probably will. Knowing that we're doing the podcast, I'll keep up to date with like kind of the big new releases. And this is coming April 16th in theaters and HBO Max. I will definitely be watching it on HBO Max. It's not a knock against theaters. I'm just not going into a theater until I get my vaccinations.
Fair enough.
And it's certainly, if there's a movie that's going to get me to a theater before then, it's not going to be Mortal Kombat.
Right. I will just add quickly, one thing I did appreciate about this trailer is that the Japanese god of thunder Raiden is not played by a French white guy, so that's cool.
That's also good, yeah.
That was a good move.
Yeah, no, more diverse cast than I think the original. A lot of East Asian American actors in this. Is Donnie Yen in this? Am I? Did I mistake that?
I'm not sure if I saw Donnie Yen. I did see what's his name? I'm blanking on the guy's name, but the guy who was Lau in The Dark Knight, the accountant for the mob.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I forget his name. Okay, maybe because I didn't see him. You're right, but for some reason I thought someone said Donnie Yen was in it. He is not in it, so I apologize. But there's a lot of people, a couple people from The Raid actually.
Oh, okay.
That are the Raid movies that are in this. They're fantastic martial artists. Yeah, if I hear good things, I mean, I'm gonna check it out, but I'm not expecting too much from it.
I'm kind of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to a trailer that you asked me to watch, Cruella.
Yeah. Oh man, let me tell you where I was coming from with this. So first heard that they were doing Cruella and a while back, and I have zero interest in these Disney live action kind of remakes. This one is different because it's similar to their Maleficent films where it's like, oh, so you thought you knew the story of this person, but really that's fine. It's a gimmick that's been done before with the Wizard of Oz, with Wicked. I didn't really like Maleficent, so I didn't really have any interest in this. I love Emma Stone's, but even hearing her cast in it, I was like, okay. What got my interest was, and this was released a while back, it might even be before the pandemic. There was just like a publicity image of her, Emma Stone, in kind of this outfit, her crazy black and white hair, just kind of holding some dogs, and it had this real punk rock aesthetic. And I was like, okay, I can kind of see it. If the movie captures this image, the way this image feels to me, I'd be interested. And I got to tell you, for going from zero interest, after watching this trailer, I cannot wait for this movie. I love this trailer. It seems, especially compared to a lot of other Disney's live action remakes, like The Lion King, which was just kind of like a soulless, shot for shot remake of the original. This looks fresh. I mean, the trailer itself was cut very much. I mentioned this to you, very much like the Joker trailer with Joaquin Phoenix.
And you know what? Like it's I don't know if I would have picked that up, but after you mentioned it, I watched the trailer. Like it's freakish. Like it's
It's yeah.
very, very similar.
It's clear that I think that was clear that it was the inspiration for this trailer. But just something about it. I love Emma Stone. She's doing a broad British accent, very theatrical. She's wearing these crazy dresses and outfits that would make Edith Head blush. I'm for it, man. It's the cinematography looks slick.
Yeah.
It looks good. There's certain shots that look a little handheld. It doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like the prim. How do I say it? When I think of other Disney live action remakes, like the Aladdin movie, that has the kind of the TV lighting, where everything is very softly, evenly lit. There's, everybody from the foreground to the background has this nice light on them. You could see everybody. This has some, dark, interesting lighting, and it seemed it's got, I don't know, it's just kind of a cool Joker like, Birds of Prey like kind of feel to it, where it's this woman that's a bit unhinged and she's pulling heists and the dogs hate her, and Emma Thompson's in it and she's great. So I'm for it, man. I'm really excited to see Cruella, oddly enough.
I'm a little bit mixed on it. I did like the trailer. I thought it was fun. It looks like a good time. I liked that one shot where she goes into the ball and her dress like catches on fire and her costume changes. I thought that was really cool. Um, and I mean, yeah, Emma Stone is fantastic. And I was looking at the cast. Let me bring it up here. We also have Emma Thompson, which is always good. Mark Strong, which is great. It's also got Paul Walter Hauser, who was, of course, in Richard Jewell, Clint Eastwood's Richard Jewell a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, very strangely, are you a fan of Always Sunny?
I am, yes.
So the other day, randomly, I decided to watch an old episode of Always Sunny, and it was Charlie ends up getting a job working as a janitor at a high school.
Yes.
And he befriends this like kid who's a juggalo, and it was Paul Walter Hauser. Like,
was it really?
Like 9 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever.
Dude.
I would not have recognized. I saw his name in the credits. I was like, no way.
Dude, I watched that episode not that long ago. I had no idea. I guess I didn't pay attention to the credits. That's wild.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, give me 1 second here.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm again, like you said, this gimmick has been done, particularly where taking a villain but then kind of turning them into an anti-hero that we can kind of get behind. I'm getting a little bit tired of that. But the movie looks fun. It looks very colorful. I love Emma Stone, so I will check it out. And I should say that the movie, it wasn't clear from the trailer if it's coming on Disney Plus or in theaters. I'm assuming it's probably in theaters if they didn't make a point of saying Disney Plus. But it is coming out May 28th.
Yeah, I feel like they intentionally kind of left it a little nebulous how it was going to be released. I think that a lot of studios, Disney in particular, really want to get back into theaters as soon as possible. And I understand I'm dying to get back into theaters. That's where the money is, and for studios. But I think at this point,
that's where the popcorn is for me. So
exactly, yeah. So home popcorn doesn't compete to movie theater popcorn.
No.
Yeah, so I think that it intentionally left it kind of like would they want to release it in theaters, but they could still potentially release it on Disney Plus, depending on how the pandemic goes and if cases continue to drop in the United States, especially, then it could go into theaters. If things spike again, because America's dumb, then I think I wouldn't be surprised if they drop this on Disney Plus.
Okay. All right. So final trailer of the day. Of course, we got what I'm assuming is probably the final trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, whatever you want to call it, which is coming out March 18th on HBO Max or Crave if you're in Canada. It will be day and date on Crave if you're in Canada. What were your overall thoughts on this trailer?
looks like Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Right.
All right, folks, I'm done. No, it's a couple thoughts. This one's a random one. But I was trying to think of it, not that this like will affect the actual quality of the film, but I was thinking of kind of the everyday person. Like you and I, we keep up to date with movie news. We're on the internet looking at this stuff. So we understand what the Snyder Cut is. But the official title of the movie is Zack Snyder's Justice League. But the previous movie, the Justice League that already came out in theaters, even though the vast majority of it was reshot by Joss Whedon, we know that. But the only sole credited director of that movie is Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
So I'm just imagining like my dad just going through HBO Max and being like, what Zack Snyder? Okay, what's the difference between Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Justice League directed by Zack Snyder? Just
and
a little thought.
And the answer is 2 hours.
Yes. So my overall thought is that it looks like Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's not a whole ton of new stuff that we haven't seen before. You get some good glimpses of new stuff. We get to see Darkseid, in all his glory, and the special effects look surpringly good for what I think it was like 70 million that they added on,
something like that, yeah,
to this budget. It visually, Snyder, for whatever you may say about him, he knows how to compose some visually interesting shots.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that, especially compared to the previous Justice League, this one looks more aesthetically pleasing to me. It looks like more visually rich, but yeah, it's just sort of I'm ready to see the movie. The way that I kind of judge a trailer is like, did it either get me more excited or less excited for a movie? And this just kind of kept me the same. It just kind of was like, all right, I was already going to check this out day of. I was interested. We mentioned before, I'm not like super excited for this, but I'm interested in checking it out, and I will watch it day of. So this trailer was just kind of like, yep, still going to watch it day of. I'm not like salivating after this trailer. A couple things though before I hand it over to you. I want more of this, because there was a line in it that I actually thought was quite good that Jeremy Irons gave.
I know the one you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's talking about Steppenwolf, and is essentially just talking to Bruce Wayne and saying, like, if you're not able to bring down the charging bull, don't wave the red cape at it. And I'm like, that's a good line, and it's not just like, oh, it sounds good, but it's an interesting concept, and I think that it also reveals a little bit more of what we could expect for the movie, where Zack Snyder is very much into lofty philosophical dialogue, which can be at times interesting, and at other times it could be kind of eye-rolling. So I'm hoping for more of that, less of the kind of the Joss Whedon jokes and more of the kind of, for better or worse, lofty philosophical dialogue like that. And then the final thing is the Joker, which I'll pass off to you. I want to hear your thoughts, and then we can talk about the Joker. But
all right, well, yeah.
Thoughts.
Before we get there, I want to say about the line you were talking about. That definitely sounds like a Chris Terrio line to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people hate Batman versus Superman. I have a lot of problems with it. Admittedly, though, I like the movie. I'm entertained by it. But one aspect of that film that I always go to bat for is I think a lot of the dialogue is actually really strong. I think some of it is actually very poetic. A lot of the talk about, bending God to my will, and now the God is dead. And there are a lot of really, really solid lines in there that are maybe made lesser because they're delivered by Jesse Eisenberg, who I like. I just don't like him in that role.
Yeah.
But this line felt in keeping with that. And Justice League is kind of the third part of the sort of Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Justice League trilogy. Yeah. So I like that there was that similarity in dialogue there.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about this trailer that I'm not enthused about, I don't like the aspect ratio. If this were coming out in theaters and we could go see it in like true real IMAX where it's taller than it is wide, I'd be all over it. Yeah. I'm going to be watching it on my TV, and it's even just watching the trailer, it just looks weird. And I understand that, like, I think I saw something about Zack Snyder was saying like a lot of comic splash pages are vertical, and he wanted to do that. And I get it. the aesthetic is not working for me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't personally mind it. I can definitely see that, and I know that it's bothering a lot of people, and I completely understand it because it's an interesting choice. Like you said, if we were able to see it in IMAX, where the verticality of that aspect ratio, the 4:3, is much more apparent. Like when you see for Christopher Nolan films, when you see it in IMAX, it really is the images that are shot in IMAX are more vertical than they are
Yeah,
horizontal. When you watch it on Blu-ray, you still actually don't quite see the full IMAX image because
right.
they don't make it vertical. They just kind of make it fill the screen.
Yeah,
So you still see more image. But my point is that you're right in the sense that if we were in IMAX and you just have this towering image of just like, whoa, you're looking up, that would be very impressive.
hmm,
On your computer or on your TV, even on a large TV, it looks less impressive.
right.
Um, I think for me, it's just kind of like it's interesting. It's different enough. I mean, obviously, there's you know thousands and thousands of older films that have this aspect ratio, but it's interesting to see a modern kind of big budget blockbuster go back to that old timey kind of look. So what again? I guess it's like similar to how I feel for the entirety of the movie. It's like that's interesting. I'm not. It's like don't have a strong feeling toward it, but I'm like, oh, cool. That's different. I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned Dark Side. I gotta say, I don't love the design of Dark Side.
Mhm.
I don't imagine he's gonna be in the film all that much.
Yeah.
I think it's probably I'm pretty sure the Steppenwolf is still gonna be the primary villain.
Mhm.
I don't love the look of Dark Side. I do think Steppenwolf looks a lot better than he did in the theatrical cut because uh, the visual effects for Steppenwolf in that movie were so poorly done. You could tell
Mhm.
they were really, really rushed. The whole movie was rushed, but it looked like a PlayStation 3 game. This looks
Yeah.
a little bit better, and I think a lot of it is because in most of the shots he's covered with armor, so it's not flesh, which is harder to render.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm looking forward to that because I do kind of like the design. He's got that sort of demon head look, which is kind of cool. And
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a better design. I to an extent, the armor at some points looks a bit kind of like Michael Bay's Megatron, where it's just a lot of jagged edges.
right,
But you also, I think the face is much better, much more intimidating than the kind of cartoony one that we got from the Joss Whedon's Justice League. He looks intimidating, and there's a point in this trailer where you see him without his helmet, and you see his weird little freaking alien head. It's actually that shape. It's not just the helmet, like that's actually what his head looks like.
right,
And the skin and the detailing on the skin looks scaly and looks much more realistic
right.
than it did in the Joss Whedon one. So yeah, I like that design. The dark side design, I liked it better. The dark side design I like better than I don't know how you pronounce this, the Uxus. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I don't.
For people who don't, essentially, like Darkseid has, like, before he became Darkseid, he was a character named Uxas. It's like
Okay,
Uxas, and we saw him. You remember in the first Zack Snyder trailer that dropped a few months back, we had a quick shot of him kind of swinging an
right,
axe, and that was Uxas or Uxas, where he before he became the all powerful Darkseid.
okay,
He looked kind of goofy there, so I think it's a step up. Especially if you look at him side by side, the dark side version looks more badass, but at the same time, you're right. He does kind of look like um, just kind of generic gray bad guy. He doesn't. So I'm not trying to be a Marvel fanboy, but he doesn't really seem at this point to have the same kind of level of personality or visual kind of like pop as Thanos. Like
right.
Thanos stands out, and he has like his face is so wonderfully realized
Yeah,
that he feels like a real character. This just looks like bad guy boss battle that you have to fight in a video game.
yeah, I would agree. Just another point too quickly about Steppenwolf. Presumably, he will again be played, and it sounds like the same voice to me in the trailer. Uh,
Yeah.
he was played by Kieran Hines, who of
Yes.
course is oh, I'm blanking on his name, Mace something,
Rance Mance
Mace
Raider.
Mance Raider. Yes, from
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
So he's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I want to point out about this trailer that I really did love, maybe my favorite thing about the trailer, I thought the music was amazing.
Mhm.
It's epic. I'm pretty sure it's Junkie XL coming back.
Yes.
Junkie XL did Batman versus Superman with Hans Zimmer, and he was going to do Justice League the theatrical, and then they brought in Danny Elfman, and I love Danny Elfman. I didn't like his score for Justice League. Um, so
No.
I'm down with Junkie XL coming back, because I really like the score in Batman versus Superman. There's a lot of really good pieces in there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like Junkie XL a lot. I think that his score for Mad Max Fury Road is terrific.
Oh, that was
And
him. That's right.
yeah, and yeah, the music definitely did stand out. It's very operatic, and it sounds quite different than. I mean, he did the music for, like you said, we've heard his music before, but I like how it's this. He's a composer that feels just at home with traditional classical instrumental pieces as well as more modern electronic pieces.
Right.
So I agree. I'm looking forward to the new and improved score. Like I said, love Danny Elfman, loved Oingo Boingo. That's a throwback reference.
Yep.
But
Have you ever seen the Rodney Dangerfield movie Back to School?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Oingo Boingo play live in that movie. They play
Was
a
that them?
concert. Yep.
Oh man, it's been ages since I've seen that.
Yep.
But yeah, Oingo Boingo, for those who don't know, was a band that Danny Elfman was in the 80s. Check it out. Good stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I felt like that was just a paycheck for him. He kind of came in, reused a bit of the Richard Donner, no, the John Williams, I should say, Superman theme.
Mhm.
He reused a bit of his Batman theme, which is still admittedly the greatest Batman theme. You can't, sorry, I love Christopher Nolan, but his original Batman theme for 1989 is just killer.
And I mean, like, I love the Hans Zimmer Nolan trilogy music. I absolutely love it.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting. If you listen to the sort of main Batman theme, I've never heard Hans Zimmer say this, but I'm pretty sure he put like a little nod to Danny Elfman's, because Danny Elfman's music goes right. The Batman theme that Hans Zimmer composed starts with it's very similar, and then it goes in a completely different direction.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that Danny Elfman theme is so iconic.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, in Justice League, the one moment where he brought that music in, it did give me chills.
It was, it's I think the first time, yeah, when you first watch it, it is just kind of like, ooh, because you're hearing it again for the first time in a while, in something new. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. But like on repeat viewings, which has been few for me, it is just kind of like, all right, it feels kind of like you're just kind of we've been there, done that. I'm kind of wanting something different. I don't know.
I will say, in the trailer, I did like that we get some Pa Kent. I really love Kevin Costner in that role. I think he's great. I think Kevin Costner excels at like playing Americana, and that's Pa Kent. So I don't know if the dialogue was pulled from Man of Steel or if it's new dialogue. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Man of Steel in a long time. But I thought that was a nice little addition. But yes, as you brought up, the money shot at the end of the trailer is, of course, the Joker. Before we get to the line, which has to be discussed, what did you think of the Joker moment? What do you think?
He looks good. He looks like the Joker. I much like this design compared to the kind of I don't know, the weird cholo look that David Ayer had, where he just had the damaged tattoo on his head.
And the grills.
I didn't go for. I think, but I think you and I are in the minority opinion, where I think that a lot of people hated Jared Leto's Joker. I think that we both agree that he just wasn't in it that much. I don't think he did. I don't think he did a poor job. I think he did exactly what was asked of him. And most of his performance ended up on the cutting room floor. I think that was a matter of direction. I think Jared Leto has proved himself to be a good actor. So I'm interested to see what Zack Snyder does for him. Obviously, if I were, from reports that I've heard, and if I was willing to bet, this is just a quick, maybe 5-minute scene. So it's just a very small thing. But he looks good. He looks like the Joker, and he looks kind of menacing and creepy, and not as kind of like goofy as he was in Suicide Squad.
Right. Yeah. As I've said to you before, I'm kind of the mind that, like, I think Leto in Suicide Squad has a couple moments that I really do like. I genuinely appreciate that
Mhm.
scene where he's intimidating like Baron Holtz and he's like purring and he's
Yeah.
almost like flirting with him. It's as like just an intimidation technique. I like that. I like that moment, but it's you know if you asked me to do an impression of Jack Nicholson's Joker, I could do it. It wouldn't be good, but I could do it. I
Yeah.
could do Heath Ledger. I don't feel like I could do Jared Leto because there's so little of him in the movie. I don't really feel like I've got a very good take on his take of the character.
Yeah, I that's a very good point, or a very good way to put it. It was kind of all over the place in the Suicide Squad, where there were points where he was more subdued and kind of like intimidating, and
Mhm.
then there were points where he was just kind of like over the top and goofy, and I there wasn't enough of him to really like nail down or pinpoint that's who his character is.
Right.
Like I said, again, I don't think that was his fault. I think it was a mixture of direction and just most of his performance being cut out.
Right.
So I'm interested to see this this new take on it in a way from Zack Snyder, but also one thing that I'll agree with Zack Snyder of why he wanted to put the Joker in is I want to see him interact with Batman. I want to see Ben Affleck's Batman, which is I think a really I like Ben Affleck a lot, and I think that his Batman is it's an interesting take on the character, and I enjoy seeing him. And I want to see what he does with Jared Leto. That's such a weird kind of combination as the Joker and Batman's relationship should be. So I am actually quite looking forward to that scene.
Me too. Me too. All right. So we're gonna wrap up pretty soon here, but we're gonna talk about our final topic of the day. Um, as I mentioned, I am wearing a Stephen King shirt. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I have read the majority of his books. I haven't read everything, but I've read a lot. And I've read a bunch of the Bachman books, which was the pseudonym he was writing for his like particularly nasty stuff,
Mhm.
mostly back in the 80s. And one of those books is a book called The Running Man.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, I'm sure a lot of you know that was a movie in the 80s starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I, I like that movie. It's fun as hell. It's ridiculous. It's
Mhm.
80s cheesy Arnie, whatever, but it's tons of fun. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan, but it is, I've said this for years. To me, it's not an adaptation of the book. It's an adaptation of the basic premise of the book, and they go in a completely different direction.
Yes.
Um, in the film, it's big schlocky 80s stuff, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is basically on this game show, The Running Man, where he just has to try and survive as long as he can. And all these like big, like American gladiator type people with like ray guns and all this kind of stuff are coming after him. In the book, it's very different. It's a sort of dystopian future. This guy, Ben Richards, is broke. His daughter is dying of the flu and he can't afford drugs. And his wife is turning tricks to try and get the medication for the kid. And so he decides to go on this show, The Running Man, and essentially they basically give him like a 24-hour head start and he has to survive as long as he can. And for every hour or day or whatever, his family will get more money with the idea that he is going to die at the end of it.
Mhm.
And the people they send after him are more like just like agents in black suits with a lot of resources. They're just normal dudes. And
Mhm.
it's a really good book. And I've always wanted to see, a remake, not a remake of the original movie, but a new adaptation of the book that's closer to what the book was. And now it seems that that may be happening. We don't know it for a fact. The project is in development, so it may never end up happening.
Yeah.
But it is currently being adapted by Edgar Wright, as I mentioned off the top. It'll be produced, I believe, by Simon Kinberg, who is he wrote a bunch of the X-Men movies. He directed X-Men Dark Phoenix, which was not great. I don't think it was the worst X-Men movie, as a lot of people said,
No.
but it was
No.
not
No.
it
No.
was not good. Um, but I am very excited about this. I think this is great. Chris, have you read the book? Have you seen the original movie? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Both. I saw the I've seen the movie with Schwarzenegger multiple times. It's like you said, it's a fun time. It's goofy. peak 80s Arnold,
Yeah.
quips and everything. It's got Jesse Ventura in it as well, briefly. Also had the inspired choice of having Richard Dawson be the game show host.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Richard Dawson was he was the host of Family Feud originally, in the 70s. So he's a suave 70s game show host. I know that mostly because my grandparents love him. But yeah, the movie's fun. It took me ages to actually realize that it was based on a book. And so I read that a while back, I believe in high school. And yeah, like I was struck by how different it is, both not just both in plot or plotting in events, but in tone. I mean, whoever thought about turning this into like a kind of a goofy Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle, I don't know how they made that connection, but other than the fact they're like, well, this could be an action movie. But both are entertaining. It's one of those few adaptations that is so vastly different from the original book that it's entertaining in its own right.
Right.
However, like you, I always saw the potential of of doing a more faithful adaptation because it would just be so different than the original movie. So I would have been interested. I would have like if the news had just come out that it's like a new Running Man is in development, uh, being produced by Simon Kinberg, who has been a better producer than filmmaker. But I would have been interested. I would have been like, oh, cool, that's cool. But the story for me is that it's Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright, I absolutely adore. He's honestly one of my favorite filmmakers right now. That's working right now. His Cornetto trilogy, I adore. Shaun of the Dead, I could watch that a million times. Um, uh, Scott Pilgrim versus the World is honestly probably one of my favorite films.
Shot here in Toronto.
I know, yeah, I know. It makes me want to visit Toronto very bad. The cold winter wonderland. I love that. One thing I will say, this is not important. I am one of the few people in the entire world apparently that thought the Baby Driver was okay. Everyone and their mother is like, that's his best movie or one of his best. And I'm just like, it's fine. Regardless, I love Edgar Wright.
Let me just jump in.
Okay.
It's weird. Like when I saw Baby Driver, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I've had absolutely no interest in ever watching it again. I don't know why.
Yeah, I should rewatch it again just to see. I'm like, did I miss something? I don't know. Um, but here's the thing: it's still a quality movie, and his direction shines through in the way
Yeah.
that he choreographed everything with music. Um, but yeah, that's very exciting news. I just want to also throw in that I have been dying to see his newest film, which unfortunately got pushed because of the pandemic. Last Night in Soho, which seems him delving into horror for the first time, not just
Oh
horror
wow.
comedy, but yeah, it stars Matt Smith, Anya Taylor Joy, and that woman from the young girl from Jojo Rabbit.
Oh,
The
Thomas and Mackenzie.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I've been dying to see that. So I am a massive Edgar Wright fan, and it's interesting because, like I said, we've mostly known him from his kind of. He's a very stylish director. He's a very knowledgeable, like similar to Tarantino in the sense that he is a massive movie buff. He has a a cinematic literacy that few directors have, where he just like consumes massive amounts of old films, and it really shows in his direction. And I'm interested to see what he can do with this property because it sounds more serious and it sounds more grounded to an extent than any of his other films that he's done so far.
Right.
What are your thoughts of him particularly adapting this?
Well, let me just say quickly, if you guys haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, for the love of goat, go watch it. It was my number one movie of 2019. That movie's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Edgar Wright is a great call for this. Not a name I would have thought to attach to it. It seems a little bit out of left field, but the more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, because the book is it's very satirical, and there is a sort of a dark humor to it,
Mhm.
that I think Edgar Wright will really pull out of it without
Yeah.
making it a comedy. But I
Mhm.
think there will be that sort of wry sense of satirical humor in there that I think will work really nicely.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm definitely excited to see what he does with it. I don't think that he doesn't strike me as the type of person to kind of just rehash the same style over and over. So I think that he's going to bring his talents, but I think it's going to be a new kind of Edgar Wright movie that we haven't seen before.
Right. So let me ask you one last thing, and I am going to spoil the ending of the book right now. The book is 35 years old, but I'm going to spoil it because I want to know if you think they're going to do this in the movie. The book ends with Ben Richards basically killing the Richard Dawson character, the host of this game show, by flying a plane into the guy's office building. And again, you know, it's been a long time since 9/11, but I don't know. Like, what do you think they'll go there? Or do you think they'll write something new?
I think they'll write something new.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's going to be 20 years this year. But that's such a iconic image in history, especially American history, but the world over. Everybody knows about 9/11. There's no way that I think that they would greenlight essentially. Yeah, the finale is going to be a plane flying into a skyscraper. Personally, if I love Edgar Wright and I love, I would be like, yeah, adapt it as faithfully as possible. But if I was pulling the strings, if I was a studio head or an executive, I would say, don't do that. Like, because you could find other ways that it's been years since I've read the book, but it's like, it was a creative way of killing someone at that time. But to me, I don't think it's like the thematic integrity of that moment is in like, it needs to be a plane, and the plane crashing into a building is integral for that moment to land. I would say don't. And because I think that you're just asking for controversy.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same mind.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, so that is the show. This is our first show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We want to thank you guys for watching. I'm going to leave links in the description box to Chris's social media, Andris, who again wasn't here today, but I'll link to his YouTube channel. You're watching this on my YouTube channel, so I don't have to link to that. I would love to ask you guys, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. But we've had a really good time. Chris, do you have a good time?
Absolutely. This is a blast.
Awesome. So we will be back soon with another episode. Hopefully Andris will be around. But until then, we hope you guys are all safe and healthy. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you all. Let me try that again. We will see you all next time.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Later.